Podcast is intended for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed are those of the panelists and do not reflect in any way those of the podcast partners, sponsors, or affiliates. Enjoy.
Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and you're listening to the voice of the people. Let's get ready for Boxing Voice.
ThaBoxingvoice.com. All the guys want, I want what Mayweather got. I want what Mayweather got. You didn't bust your ass like Mayweather. I was trying to fight every fighter. I sacrificed a lot to get to where I got to.
What do you bring to the team?
Let's get this on. Let's do it. Well, it's like this. Wait.
All right, that's it. Hold on. Bernard, everybody calm down.
Man, you know how these bitches is in the sport. Total disrespect. Kid has no class, no style at all.
Hey, welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The best show in the motherfucking world. ThaBoxingvoice.com. We are back. Hashtag TBV. Hashtag TBV podcast. We're back to talk some breaking news. WBC President Maurcio Sulaiman says that he may order an interim bout between mandatory welterweight WBC challenger Shawn Showtime Porter and the list of names who Shawn Porter may face in this interim bout due to Keith Thurman being out because of that elbow surgery and recovery. It's pretty sexy. Pretty damn sexy, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the thing is, we are going to discuss back and forth along with, obviously, my co-host out in the Golden State, whether or not these are actually possible. Name number one, Danny Swift Garcia versus Shawn Porter. Name number two, Terence Bud Crawford. Yeah, Terence Bud Crawford.
Who's the illest nigga in Nebraska?
Yeah. Supposedly the illest guy in Nebraska wanted a shot at Keith one-time Thurman, and he himself is a 140-pound junior welterweight WBC belt holder, right? And Keith Thurman is the welterweight WBC belt holder. I'm assuming Mauricio's given Terence a shot based on skill and just all that he's been able to prove on his way up, similar to how the WBO were willing to grant Canelo Alvarez an opportunity versus 160-pound challenger / champion Billy Joe Saunders. But I've given you enough details on this. Let me bring in my co-host out in the Golden State to get his takes.
DiBiase production.
This is a beautiful performance against a very tough guy in Michael Johnson. How do you feel about it?
Fuck that. Conor McGregor.
ThaBoxingvoice.com.
You know me, Larry. From a wicked entrance, from a flip over the rock into a knockout now. When the main thing is, I just hope the guy, I wish.
ThaBoxingvoice.com.
Yes, here. Haters everywhere. Shawn Porter versus anyone, I think, is a good fight, especially when we're talking about elite competition. Danny Garcia is, for whatever anyone wants to say about Danny Garcia, he's a top 5 welterweight right now, hands down. Shawn Porter is as well. So if we get that fight, it's a fight between 2 top 5 welterweights. Regardless if there's an interim fight attached to it, that's a hell of a good fight. So I'm excited. I think that's a good fight. If that's not the fight, if we get Terence Crawford moving up, then I think it's the best of both worlds. You get guys like me who think Terence Crawford can go to 147 right now and give every one of those guys a run for their money. And we get Shawn Porter, who I think stylistically may be actually the toughest matchup at 147 for him, just based off of his pressure and aggression. So I think if we got that fight, I would be hyped. I think both fights are awesome fights if we were to get them. Do I think they happen? Not necessarily. So can't wait to chop it up with you, Ness, and the callers.
Not necessarily. What exactly does that mean? Why the skeptic?
Well, will Danny Garcia take a fight against Shawn Porter, who's coming off, I'm not going to say his best win, but I think the version of Shawn Porter against Andre Berto is the best version we have seen of Shawn Porter. He looked flawless in that fight. He looked way more efficient in his aggression as well, and his offense. I don't think Danny Garcia coming off a loss is going to take that type of fight. I see a lot of risk and a lot of reward off of it, but a lot of risk. Now, Terence Crawford, I think he is going after Manny Pacquiao. That's his whale. He is Ahab. You know, like he needs to get that whale.
Well, to be fair, the facts are Bob Arum, his promoter. Bob Arum, the promoter of Top Rank, 83 years old, I believe. Matt says that the trajectory for Terence is Ndongo
and then Pacquiao.
Yes. So he needs to solidify both of those fights because Ndongo's throwing names like Adrian Broner. But digressing back to the topic.
Well, Ndongo also brought up Crawford, obviously. I think all parties are sort of pointing towards Crawford and Ndongo. The only one that is not pointing towards that is, unfortunately, the IBF.
Well, I think he said Broner's name just to let Bob know, like, hey, don't try to lowball me. We have options.
True. I mean, that could have obviously been a negotiation tactic. But I'm just saying everybody in Ndongo's camp wants the Crawford fight. They want the unified championship. Obviously, Bob Arum's saying that Ndongo is really the next guy, and then they're going to fight Manny Pacquiao in the fall. I think even Crawford's team inside is pointing towards an Ndongo fight. The only side that isn't is the IBF. They're trying to put up the mandatory Sergey Lipinets against Ndongo first. And timing-wise, that could screw up things. I could see Terence Crawford jettisoning 140 and leaving that division if he cannot get the Ndongo fight. If Ndongo is forced to fight as mandatory, purely based off of timing. If that were to happen, I still do not think Terence Crawford takes the Shawn Porter fight.
Porter or
if I'm in Crawford's camp, I don't advise him to fight Shawn Porter first. As a fan, I would love to see that fight. But if I'm in his camp, there's no way in hell I'm telling him to take that fight first at 147. That's a dangerous fight at 147.
Porter or Garcia are bigger fights than Ndongo.
Yes, but that's not the point.
So if those negotiations play out difficult, he should probably exercise this opportunity that Maurcio Sulaiman and the WBC seem to be kind of laying out for him. As far as does Danny take a Porter fight, I think that he has many reasons not to. Not that I agree with any, but I think if you're Garcia, especially Angel and Danny, right? They believe for whatever reason they won. I don't know if that has changed. Have you heard anything new in the media that, kind of because they thought they won, just like they thought they won the Herrera fight, right? So
yeah, that's cute.
Then, but there is history there if he goes the Crawford route, which would be the smartest route, right? For him, from an economic standpoint, it's like that's a bigger name than probably Shawn Porter. He has the accolades, but he's also a smaller man moving up, but he's also the faster, better boxer. So for Danny, either fight, like you said, like the Porter fight, I think a lot of the naysayers of Garcia would say, no, he doesn't want a Shawn Porter fight. That's too much aggression. Danny doesn't want that, but he handled that aggression of Matisse well. He was able to clinch well. Maybe that is the better fight for him to go into. Remember, he digs to the body well and he uses his uppercut and hooks well on the inside. Maybe the Porter fight is the fight that suits him better than a long, tall, 157-pound Terence Crawford, who can now even come up fight night heavier than 57 now that he's able to make 47. So I don't know if Danny really wants those longer, taller problems where he could get a shorter Porter, who, yes, is very active and very tough to deal with, but he gives away his height. He's a bit sloppy at times, and Danny's the counterpuncher.
Wait, are you bringing up Danny versus Crawford as well and juxtaposing those two? Is that what you're doing?
I mean, I brought them both up
because Danny Crawford doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. That Crawford's not fight. I mean, Danny's not fighting Crawford. That's not going to happen this year for sure. That's not going to happen.
I mean, if it was, we're living in the world.
Wait a minute. A tough fight next. He's not taking a tough fight.
But we are living in the world of him accepting this interim bout. Like, that is the topic of the show. If Mauricio says which he already did, and says, look, I don't want the division to stay inactive because of Keith Thurman's elbow injury. So in the interim, the mandatory challenger, Shawn Porter, may face Danny Garcia or Terence Crawford. So I'm sure he's going to offer it to Terence. It's Bob Arum and Terrence's job to say yes or no. They need to look at what option and route is more lucrative or better for their team. But let's say they turn it down. What does Danny do then? Because if he falls any lower on that WBC ranking, he'll never get another shot at the belt that he quote unquote thinks he didn't lose in just, right? So I'm
Danny's
just
not going to drop. I mean, come on. Danny's going to fight like a Luis Collazo next or somebody along that lines. Maybe an Amir Khan rematch. I could see that happening this year.
But doesn't that put you further away from a title shot?
Look, when you lose, you need a tune-up. I'm sorry. I know that he thinks he won, but he probably thinks he needs a tune-up, and his team probably thinks that. Maybe he doesn't, but his team
Luis
does.
Collazo's no tune-up, especially not based off that last fight.
But comparative to Shawn Porter, yeah, he is. He is a lesser. He is not as good of a boxer. Not as dangerous of a threat as Shawn Porter. So obviously it's more of an easy fight. Maybe not tune-up. Maybe that's a bad word. But it's an easier fight. He needs an easier touch right now than a Shawn Porter. That's what Al Heyman and his team will tell him. Shawn Porter needs to be in line to fight Keith Thurman. I think if I'm Shawn Porter, I go take out the other mandatory in Lamont Peterson. That's what I would do if I'm Shawn Porter. Make sure I'm clearly the only guy in the WBA and the WBC that is in line for that belt, for that title.
So you would be impressed with Danny if he fought either of the two men that Sulaiman is presenting.
Well, he's not presenting the two men to Danny. He's presenting the two men to Shawn Porter.
Exactly. But you would be impressed with Danny.
If Danny were to fight Crawford or Porter in this world, in this year, I would be very shocked, and I would give that clapping soundbite to him all day because he deserves it. If that's a very risky fight. I just don't think it happens.
I don't know if you didn't know, but Danny put out a song, and in that song,
never been a lame-o, never been a lame-o.
So I don't see him being a lame-o and not taking one of these paths, especially the WBC route. Like if you fought, because Porter's already the mandatory, so you didn't exercise your rematch or there was none. And Porter's the mandatory, like you're falling further and further away from that rematch.
Danny's only what, 1 or 2 fights away from a rematch?
Again,
Danny is still a very big name in the division. He's arguably still the biggest name in the division other than a Manny Pacquiao.
He might be, but if Porter goes on to rematch Thurman and defeats Thurman, then they got a rubber match. You understand what I'm saying? So then Danny's again left out because he chose not to jump in the mix right now. He could easily leapfrog. All he's got to do is beat this mandatory or this interim fight.
Here's the thing. When you have the same representation for all these guys, all Al Heyman guys, Al Heyman's going to position all these guys to succeed because all these guys are his moneymakers. Keith Thurman, Shawn Porter, Danny Garcia, Adrian Broner, those guys are the future in a sense of Al Heyman in boxing. So, and they're the names and faces of it. Same with Deontay Wilder. He's going to take care of those guys. So that's why we're not going to see Shawn Porter versus Danny Garcia this year. Because Al Heyman knows I cannot risk Danny Garcia losing twice in a row. If Danny Garcia loses twice in a row to Keith Thurman and Shawn Porter, then he is absolutely out of the welterweight title picture.
Dude, you got to get this out of your head. Listen, it's
I'm just saying how the reality is, how the reality of the boxing world works.
It's funny that you're a UFC guy because it's UFC guys that tend to say, oh, in boxing, it's not like the UFC. Like in the UFC, guys
I've never said that. I've never said that.
Hold on. In the UFC, guys can lose. In boxing, one loss is over. That's bullshit. That's been bullshit. What do you mean? Gabriel Rosado is
in a row. I'm sorry, losing twice in a row.
Gabriel Rosado.
Nobody thinks he's elite. Nobody thinks he's elite.
It doesn't matter.
But we're talking about Danny Garcia being a champion.
You can understand what I'm saying. Gabriel Rosado is still in significant fights. Still. Hank Lundy still gets significant fights. Even Marco Antonio Rubio still gets significant fights. Porky Medina just got a significant fight.
Leandro Vargas was in that type of situation, and he lost a bunch.
Matter of fact, speaking of Porky, we would not be upset if Benavidez fought Rubio. That is a 68-pounder. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. We accept losses. If Danny went in there and fought Shawn Porter, who's considered top 5 welterweight in the world, and lost in a competitive, it's got to be competitive. Okay, key word, competitive.
But what if it's not?
You guys can't keep throwing around this.
If I'm Hal Heyman, I'm thinking about
a fighter loses twice and he's done, because look at where Luis Collazo is. Luis Collazo's come back. That you in this conversation brought him up in a Danny fight, which would be considered a big fight, because you in this conversation said that Danny is still one of the biggest welterweight names. So again, Luis Collazo is a guy with a bunch of losses that you're willing to throw in there with Danny in a quote unquote tune-up fight. But today,
a massive knockout win.
Listen, you're willing to throw him in there on a quote-unquote Lou. And if you're listening, it's him calling you a fucking tune-up, all right? Not me. So catch him in the gym. He's coming in a couple of weeks. But, yeah, you're calling him a tune-up. And that's the guy with losses that turned it around. So why is Danny any different? Conor got a few losses. He's still considered elite.
Look, when you are a boxer or a fighter, it doesn't even have to be a boxer because you threw out the UFC term. It could be anyone. When you are put through the meat grinder of the top 3 guys, top 4, top 5 guys over and over and over again, you can't survive off that. You will not have a long career off of that. He's not going to last another 5 to 8 years.
I don't know, but that Porter.
And hold on. I let you rant. Let me go. If I'm Hal Heyman and you know this, if I'm Hal Heyman, I'm telling Danny, don't take the Porter fight right now. Fight someone else. You don't need that. That the Porter money fight, which it is a money fight, because they'll probably be at the Barclays, they're probably going to sell at the place. It would do big numbers on television. That's there. Same with the Keith Thurman rematch. That's all in your back pocket. Go fight some other guys.
It's funny that you're trying to set out this plan that you hate on. You know, Wilder takes this plan.
I hate this plan.
Wait a minute. Let me make it obvious for the people listening. If Wilder took this trajectory, you'd be shitting on him. But now you're asking Danny to take it and take the heat that's going to come along with it.
What would be an equal route for Wilder? What names would be equal to Luis Collazo?
An interim fight is an equal route. That's what Wilder's been doing.
He might end up getting that. Well, he might end up getting that just because of the politics of heavyweight right now.
No, he is. I heard today. Listen, I'm in the gym every day now. And I heard today that it's gonna be July, possibly July Stavern rematch, because Stavern he's not budging.
Yeah, he's not budging, and plus the wanting of Joseph Parker is not out there because Joseph Parker's trying to get that Tony Bellew fight. But digressing to the show.
They're dipping off. I don't want to use the word duck, but they definitely dipping.
Digressing to the point, I just think that, yes, I do hate this strategy in a sense, but it's just the realistic business strategy of the sport. This is what the industry is like. You know, can we get the best versus the best every fight? I want that, but that's just not reality, and these guys won't do it. And their managers and their promoters won't do it. So I'm sorry, but that's just
man. I think if you're Team DSG, you might want the Porter fight. Listen, he's a counterpuncher. He needs a guy coming at him. I know that Porter's a tough fight.
Thurman was giving him a ton of trouble pressuring him. Robert Guerrero was giving him a ton of trouble pressuring him. Danny Garcia can be overwhelmed. Danny Garcia is not the best boxer at welterweight. He may be one of the biggest names, but he's not the best boxer.
Obviously, your opinion. We would not need to wait to see what they do, but I think it's about that time we jump out to these phone callers. Very
quickly, which fight would you prefer? Which Shawn Porter versus Danny or Shawn Porter versus Crawford?
Either fight for me is a very interesting fight, because I am with you. I believe that the pressure of Porter may prove difficult for Crawford. We've seen Felix overwhelm Crawford with overhand rights, and man, that's what Shawn does well. But I also feel like, man, maybe Crawford could keep Shawn on the outside, boxing the way that Shawn does sometimes. Like, you know, I know people, this is a podcast and not, I mean, you can watch me on video, just do what I did. He kind of has You know, where he kind of has just his hands up catching shots. They're both just super interesting. Like, again, I know that the overwhelming public might think that Shawn would run through Danny. And I'm like, all right, but what about that Matisse fight? I know it's a long time ago, but it's that style, come forward style, where he stood his ground. He kind of pivoted. He caught some shots. He rolled with him and countered. Maybe that affects him. Maybe that he's effective in that style again. You know, either matchup, bro, either matchup. I really hope, you know, and look, we hate on the sanctioning bodies, but things like this, and actually Oscar Escandon versus Gary Russell, they get the ball moving. They get the ball moving. They get these negotiations started, and nobody wants to look like a dipper in the public. So, you know, this is out there now, and someone's going to have to dip.
Duck.
Or be dipped. You know, somebody's going to have to pick or dip. Which fight's bigger for Porter? For Porter?
One's going to be on HBO, one's going to be
but
regular TV potentially.
Matt, I'm going to go ahead and say I think definitely the Porter-Crawford fight would have to be bigger due to the HBO. You know, HBO consistently gets 1 million viewers on there. Crawford was just on, and he got 1 million on just out, you know. So I'm going to say, yeah, because, I mean, we've seen, well, again, Danny Porter would probably be like a CBS or an NBC or some type of big free TV spot. So I don't know, but I will be honest. It always feels like the production of an HBO is bigger, is it not?
Yes. The overall production of the show will be bigger. I think the total viewership will be different if the fight's on like CBS or Fox or NBC with Porter and Garcia. I think that fight is bigger, but I think Porter-Crawford's a better fight.
Porter-Crawford's a better fight.
Like from a boxing standpoint, that's a very intriguing style matchup and clash. And it'd be just major risk for Crawford. We would that is the riskiest fight of Crawford's career if he takes that.
It's so funny because the trainer, when I asked him, you know, McIntyre at the in New York, I'm like, would you guys really go to 47 or would you get acclimated? And he's like, no, like, why? We going straight for the champions. So it would be good to see. Listen, it's time to jump out to the callers. You guys know the number 1-425-569-5241. Matt, get that clock ready. We're going to do these 45 seconds, callers. 40. Let's give a minute. Let's give him a minute.
I can do that. I can do that.
We're going to give you a minute, you know, to knock your opponent out in a minute. We're going to get out to my man in the UK, Idris. But first, a word from our sponsors.
These calls are brought to you by El Camino Electrical Services, experts in electric vehicle charging stations. For consultations and turnkey installation, visit us at elcaminoelectricalservices.com.
Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Obviously, it helps with the visibility of the show and lets us know that you are enjoying the content. Idris in the UK, talk to us.
Yeah, man. What's up, man? Listen, quick one, man. Terence Crawford, he can go to 147, no tune-up, and he wipes the floor with Thurman, Porter, and Garcia. That's light work, man. They're in a second-tier stuff, man. Looking at, listen, first tier, you got Spencer and Brook, man. That's the guys at 147, man. Everyone else, they're just all just playing around with each other, man, because that's the level that they're at. So Thurman, Crawford is just gonna go through them. He's looking at the big boys after that, man. If Brook doesn't go up to 154, but that's it, man.
All right, Idris, man, I cannot wait for this fight this weekend because all this talk about Brook and Earl being the number ones, they're going to have to produce what type of fireworks together this Saturday in order to live up to this hype that everyone has got on them. I mean, excuse me?
A
massive knockout.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You heard what David Caldwell said. He feels like this could be a Roy Jones thing.
We got a special guest on.
Who's special?
Cash Weezy.
Is he really?
Yeah, he called in.
No. Mr. Weezy. Mr. Anderson.
Yo, what's up, man? Yeah, I just want to say I saw fight too. Stay focused, stay working my dad. If you come to fight, I'm not too far, man. I saw fight too. I'm on a podcast.
Yo, I was trying to sneak in. Good day, everyone. Damn, Porter, Garcia, Crawford, whatever way it goes, I like it. I had a question though. Didn't Garcia and Keith Thurman break the $5 million on the free TV, right? Yes. No, Matt?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So isn't that a big business for Crawford? And Porter's known on there. So isn't that big business for either way it goes? Right? And if Crawford were to fight Porter, then we just see Crawford easily dismantle and handle Felix Diaz, which is similar to Porter's style, I thought, because of the whole charging and some of the sloppiness. Right?
Yeah, but it's a totally different animal though.
Different body, different aggression, different athleticism, different power.
Diaz gets tired. Porter doesn't get tired. He doesn't stop. You got to be able to stop him.
Right. So, but technically, Crawford, in my eyes, is the much more relaxed guy who can take care of that pressure, I think, and is athletic as well. So, yeah, I like it being a mandatory if it's true. The sanctioning bodies always mandate something, and it always falls apart. So that's all I was calling about, just to say that's a good thing. Again, more conversation, and Kell Brook and Earl Spence, who's Roy Jones in this situation?
They're saying Kell Brook's Roy Jones because he moved up, gained that 25 pounds of muscle, beat up John Ruiz, came back down, never was the same, started and went on like a 4-fight loss and lost streak. And so they're saying, David Caldwell saying, well, Kell Brook moved up, put on all this muscle. We all complimented him on how good he looked, on how much of a machine he was. And now he had to strip away that muscle to meet Earl Spence at 147. And he's fearful that, he's going to be the same guy.
But he looks great on Instagram. I seen him. He's looking sharp. He's looking lean and
hey,
strong.
Julio Cesar Chavez looked great too, remember?
I don't know about that. He looked,
Nah. You can't say you don't know about that. On this show, plenty of people were saying how Chavez, you picked him. Who?
Cash Weezy.
No, I picked him, but I did not say that I said he looked athletic, and you could go rewind the playback. Those are my exact words, because he looked like
listen, everybody was believing the hype. Everybody was checking out his Instagram. Everybody seen that he was Instagram fit. He was surprising us all. Let's not get carried away. We remember he did the day before weigh-in. We were all shocked. So let's stop it. And that's all I'm saying is that we've seen this before where guys can make the weight but not perform. But we're getting off topic, Cash. I got callers, and you gotta give us your final thoughts.
Yep. My final thoughts, man, that either way it goes, I don't care if Danny fights Crawford. I would like to see it. Hopefully he beats him. That's who I would pick. And if he fights Shawn Porter, it's a great fight. Big numbers, big pay. So if you're thinking it as business, it's quicker cash. I understand that they're saying, those are the biggest stocks in the PBC stable, Porter and Garcia and Thurman and all these other names. But yeah, so they make their money. And like you said, Cotto had 9 losses? he was like third pay-per-view star.
He's still, he just signed to fight Kama Guy, and he's using Golden Boy as the promoter. Like, Cotto's still relevant. That's what I'm trying to tell this MMA guy over here who's trying to make it seem like in our sport you can't lose. Cotto's going on his 8th leg, and we're still fucking.
I've always said Cotto's been relevant, and Cotto is one.
Cotto's not the only one, Poppy. Everybody is relevant.
I'm not saying you can't come off from a loss. I'm saying back-to-back losses against 2 of the top 5 welterweights will damage.
You out, man, with all that fucking background noise. Beat it. Listen, back-to-back losses to 2 top 5, any division.
It will make all the haters go, see, Danny Garcia is nothing. Danny Garcia is not a true welterweight.
It shouldn't make you irrelevant. It shouldn't.
Guys at 140 that weren't really that good. Lucas was never that good. Come on. Like, you haters saying that. Come on.
Okay, Matt. Listen, matter of fact, though, Robert the Ghost Guerrero is in another relevant fight. He's in a fight so relevant that if I wasn't going to Florida to beat up some fucking Canadians, I would be at that fight versus Omar Figueroa and Robert Guerrero, because it's sure to be a barn burner. The same way, Kamagai versus whoever is a barn burner, or Mura versus whoever, or Orlando Ciolito versus whatever, guy, Roman Martinez. Those were barn because of those styles matchups. So let's stop saying that losses really mean something. You got to match these guys properly. There's a reason you keep asking for Collazo, because he's just, in your opinion, he's probably just slow enough to make Danny look as good as he once did, and just good enough to push him to
That's not why I want Collazo to get those fights.
So what the hell for then?
I think Collazo's earned a big fight.
Oh, but you call it a tune-up. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you know what? I got to get on.
I clarified. I said it was an easier touch than Shawn Porter. Is it not? Is Luis Collazo a harder fight than Shawn Porter?
I'll get to the call.
Come on. Is Luis Collazo a harder fight than Shawn Porter?
I don't know at this point, man.
You don't know? Really?
Listen,
you don't know?
My boxing IQ tells me that Shawn Porter is obviously the tougher fight because of his athleticism and his, damn near Mexican heart and blood. But Collazo was a new man. What if he continues in that manner? We don't know. We just don't know.
You're really saying that Porter is not a tougher fight than Luis Collazo?
We don't know. We don't know.
Let's get to the callers.
Matt, listen.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers.
Okay, so just stop it. You're not always right. Listen, like you said, let's get to the calls. We're going to go out to the rock star. Let's get to the rock star. Robert Ortiz, Las Vegas. What's up?
Yeah, that was not my intro. This last one was though. I've just been watching Chris Cornell videos all morning and afternoon. So, just respect to him. Still morning over here. But to the boxing, I don't even know why you're reporting this, Nestor. Why is it even a discussion? Since when do the sanctioning bodies mandating fights make fights?
Oh my God. Dude, you've been out of boxing for a long time, obviously. Would you like me to name a few that just happened last week that were mandatories?
I'll tell you that fighter.
Bermain-Stavern rematch is a mandatory.
Bermain versus Wilder is a must fight now because of sanctioning bodies. And last week's fights with Oscar Escandón and Gary Russell was sanctioning bodies. Oh, and Damian Mura, sanctioning bodies. Oh, wait a minute. Crawford? No, that wasn't, but what else was?
It wasn't.
What else?
You get out of mandatories is
Porky Medina versus this kid, David Benavidez, which ended up being one of the fights of the weekend, was a sanctioning body fight.
Nestor. Okay, let's rephrase this. Since when do, besides Deontay, there's one, I guess, just one in the history.
We just said Benavidez was another one.
Kell Brook. Earl Spence.
Kell Brook, Earl Spence, Saturday is another one. I mean, your point started wrong.
You're lying, dude.
What? Kell Brook versus Earl Spence?
Courtesy Billy Joe Saunders. The WBO. The WBO historically has never forced mandatories. Now they are.
Fighters want belts, so they're taking the fights. It's not because it's mandated. It's like it just.
Step aside money is a thing. fighters aren't taking the step aside money nowadays. That is true.
But what I don't understand how, like, this is what doesn't make sense to me. This is why it's bullshit, and why I wonder why you're reporting it. And I'm trying to call out this particular sanctioning body at the moment, because why are you mandating a fight between fighters that are fighting in 2 different weight classes, and it's mandatory?
No. Listen, why don't you ask for the information or read it yourself? What's happening is this. Listen, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. Keith Thurman, the champion in the WBC at welterweight, right?
Correct. I'm with you.
He's injured now. He hurt his elbow. He had surgery a month after the fight, and after his fight with Danny, and he's going to be recovering till the end of the year. He's coming back in November. If everything is good, the doctor told him, do not rush. Maurcio Sulaiman, in his sanctioning body, feels that the division should not be on halt because of Thurman. So instead, he is thinking and may enforce the mandatory challenger to Keith Thurman, which is Shawn Porter, to have an interim title fight versus Danny, if Danny wants to get himself back in title contention, right? Because a win over Porter would put Danny back in line to fight the fight that he wants with the rematch with Keith. Or he's willing to grant Terence Crawford, who's the champion of division below. Wait a minute.
No,
wait a minute. Don't let me mute you, bro, so you can learn, okay? He's willing to grant the division below, which is the champion there at the WBC. No different than what the WBO was doing with Canelo Alvarez when he beat Liam Smith and they were granting. Hold on a minute. You got to walk with me, brother. If you want to learn, you got to open your ears. They did it with Canelo Alvarez at 154 when he beat Liam Smith. They were allowing him an opportunity to fight 160 for the title versus Billy Joe Saunders. It's no different. The divisions below always grant the champions. That's why a champion, an undisputed
automatic mandatories.
Dude, an undisputed champion like Crawford, would be challenging the best in the next division. No different than when Floyd moved up and challenged De La Hoya. So come on, man. Don't have selective fucking history, and please don't look like a casual masquerading as a hardcore fan.
And I feel like you understand the process. What do you have against it, though?
Hold on a second, man. Listen, the problem is that these sanctioning bodies just kind of pick and choose, and you as a boxing observer and me as a boxing fan and all the other fans, we pick and choose when belts matter and when they don't, and when you do it for one fighter it's cool, when you do it for a fighter it's not cool. Either you have a structured rule setting, which is okay. In this case, if traditionally if you are the champion and you're injured and you're out, or the champion vacates, then it's the number 1 and number 2 ranked fighters. No, this is what you're supposed to do, okay? In this case, it's Danny and Shawn Porter, both of which had really close fights with Thurman that, to me, both warrant rematches. So I think that them two fighting for the belt makes sense. You don't grant a guy with no wins in the division. You'll take it into account once he actually beats someone in the division.
So don't grant Floyd a shot at De La Hoya then, huh? Don't grant Pacquiao that shot at De La Hoya then, huh?
Correct.
Don't grant Bernard or excuse me, De La Hoya that shot at Bernard, huh?
Because that's how those fights were made.
There is a difference.
Oh, wait a minute. Didn't Bernard move up to 175 and challenge somebody too? When he went from 160, he went straight to Pavlik. Come on, dog.
You stop for a second because Pavlik was fighting at 160.
At 160, but he still moved up to 75.
Very quickly, before you go on, Robert, very quickly. Sanctioning bodies will always care about the belts because that's how they make money. The fans are the ones that don't care about the belts and the rankings and all that. But the sanctioning bodies will always care about that. These bodies have never not cared about the belts.
First of all, you're a boxing hipster. You don't even watch fights. You go outside and smoke weed. Didn't even watch the fights. Secondly, the those guys were champions and they held the belt. The belt was not vacated, or in this case, there's Keith Thurman's rule. He's injured, so it's ruled out of contention. These guys were champions, taking another fight while still dealing with their mandatories. Pacquiao, Canelo had the belts, and Bernard had belts. De La Hoya had belts. These were not vacant belts that they were fighting for. So you don't give a guy a random shot at it. So it's
an interim belt. It's not even a real belt. What are you saying? Like a shot at the belt? It's not a shot at the belt.
Shot at the champion.
It's a shot at the number one mandatory, basically.
An interim is fine, but Terence Crawford has to prove it. It just doesn't mean
Porter is proving it. He's not fighting for the belt. What don't you understand? Keith Thurman is the champion. He is not getting an automatic shot at the champion, which is what you're against, even though that's acceptable in their rules.
Okay, but listen, Nestor said,
the thing you're complaining against is not even happening.
I'm not complaining about people fighting for contendership. I'm not.
No, you're complaining about the champion in a lower weight class going up against the champion of a higher weight class without proving himself in that weight class. Well, that's what this would be. He'd be proving himself against Shawn Porter, the number one mandatory.
Title shot, I'd have a problem with.
He doesn't. He's getting a mandatory shot. So if he beats this guy, then he gets a shot at the title. Don't you get it?
Okay, that's fine. That's okay. But what I'm saying is, you didn't say that in the beginning.
What?
You led me to believe.
You're funny, man.
You led me.
Yo, you got to see the chat. They're ripping you, man. They're ripping you.
No.
I think he's the one that's high, Matt. He's talking about you go outside and smoke.
My door is made of glass. I can see through it too. Come on.
I don't like feeling paranoid.
All right, you might not smoke. You might overdose on protein for all we know. Something's wrong. The conversation ain't getting through your head. Something's wrong.
He got no sleep. He has 2 kids now. Like he's not getting enough sleep. Maybe that's it. He seems drowsy. I don't know.
Drowsy, man. I haven't slept since October, dude. Twins are tough, bro. But anyways, listen. I haven't been listening to the show, so I was asking questions, and you led me to believe that they were giving the belts. Okay, they were giving the belt away. You didn't tell me it was an interim contendering.
Man, when you press rewind,
belt, whenever Keith Thurman,
when you press rewind, buddy, you'll hear me say interim multiple times. It's just that
Okay,
and the title has it too.
I was.
That's right, Matt.
And then you popped up.
The title of the podcast and the show is Interim Belt.
The title of the live show says Interim Belt.
Well, I didn't read it. Anyway, listen. So that's fine. That's fine. I'm totally cool with it, like you guys are. I'm fine with that. I think that's
hilarious.
Great. Let's fight to see who's gonna face Keith Thurman. But really, the only belt that actually matters is how you rank personally the fighters, because everyone's gonna disagree. To me, what really matters is good fights. And the idea of Danny Garcia versus Terence Crawford is a great fight to me, regardless of what color belt they're wearing or if they're wearing a belt at all.
That's not going to fight on the table, but okay.
Hey, Rob, let me get to some other callers, man.
Rob is struggling
today, brother. Jeez Louise, is it that early on the West Coast? He needs some coffee in his life.
Man, he has twins, man. Like, come on.
He said the fight that's intriguing is Danny versus Crawford.
On the real, though, that fight is probably the most intriguing out of the cocktail mix you could get out of those 3.
It's not on the table.
It's not on the table, but that's the one I would like to see the most.
He had like a 15-minute argument about him not understanding or reading the title. Jesus Christ.
I told y'all a long time ago, the Kirkland will go down 3 rounds. Right hand. Down goes Kirkland. Strap me up. Who's next? I got milk, baby. All right. Go ahead and get the sound bite ready, because I'm going to tell you like this. To be honest with you, I don't want to really see Porter fight, man. I dig the dude, but watching Porter fight is like playing a video game back in the day, and the damn guy just does the same thing over and over. He wins, but it damn sure ain't pretty. I just don't want to see it, man. I would rather see Crawford, Garcia. And to be honest with you, if I would watch Porter fight again, you know who I want to see him fight? Motherfucking Timothy Bradley. That's who I want to see. I don't want to see him. I just don't want to see the guy, man. Who the fuck is that guy?
Ness, don't even do that. Don't do that, Ness. Bradley's.
Let me ask you this. So what happens if Crawford says, "Nah, I don't want to fight," and Danny Garcia says, Nah, I don't want to fight. Then what happened?
Porter just sit and wait.
Porter fights Jesse Vargas?
No, Porter just sit and wait, or Mauricio elevates someone else for the opportunity, right? Porter could still sit and wait. He could do what Kell Brook is doing. What Spence did. Wait his opportunity. He doesn't have to, but why not get some money when this other guy's going to be out forever? You know what I mean? You might as well get another fight in.
Now, I do agree with you that Danny could take that fight with Porter and lose and still be okay. Because let's face it, Danny, he lost the last fight, but he still made a good account of himself, so his stock didn't drop. But if I'm Danny, I ain't fighting Porter. I'm gonna just kind of sit back and see how this shit plays out. That's my call.
All right, Milkman. Listen, let's get it back together, man. We're going to Class and Bound in Texas.
Hold on, very quickly, we have a ringer. Sorry, Class and Bound. I'm sorry.
Jose?
Yep.
The Canadian bacon maker.
Yo, guys, what's going on? How you guys doing?
All right. What's up, brother?
Not much. You know, I don't know. I would honestly, I love the way Crawford fights, man, but Porter, he just seems like one of those fighters that I would avoid. He's just too sloppy. Like Milkman just said it, man. He always finds a way to win, and he does it looking so ugly, man. So, and I'm not talking about his face. Oh no, just joking. Anyway, he's just a sloppy dude, man, altogether, and I just think it could cause somebody a lot of problems, even somebody as technically sound as Crawford. So I don't know if that would be a fight that Crawford should take, man. And it's not even like he's going to get the actual belt; it's the interim belt. So all those examples you were mentioning to Ortiz there, none of those guys went and challenged for an interim belt. They were challenging the actual belt itself, right? And in most cases, the lineal champion. So I don't know why he would do that, right? So it doesn't make sense to me.
It would mean a shot. It would mean a shot at the. It would mean an opportunity at the champion, though. Like that's what we gotta. You know, if we keep letting these guys think that their namesake is big enough to get them title shots, then we'll never see the best versus the best. Because if Danny fought Porter, then we knew legitimately that Porter deserves that rematch with Thurman. Because are we going to say that all Porter needs to do is fight Birdo to get a rematch? And Jose, you know, the hipster, you know, he obviously dislikes you. So hate for the 1 minute clock to be started on you, but it is drive by. We're going back out to Texas. Class and Bound, talk to us.
Hey, so yeah, Danny Garcia, Shawn Porter. I would love to see that fight, to be honest. I think it's a really good fight for both men, just to see where they can go from here. Because like Danny was, I don't know, Danny in that Keith Thurman fight, he showed a lot of things. Even though he did lose, he did show some things that he can hang around with those guys at 147. But Canadian Jose is kind of right though. Shawn Porter fights really ugly, and it's a hard time for any fighter, like whether Crawford, whether it's Garcia. If he ever fights Kell Brook again and they get a referee who doesn't allow as much holding, like it's a really tough fight for any person. But I would like to see it either way. Oh, and the whole thing about the belts thing, the sport has seen all of this from time and time again. When you were talking about Bernard Hopkins, he had just lost his titles at 160 to Jermaine Taylor. He then went up to 175 to fight Antonio Tarver for the lineal light.
Cut it. See, I told you he jumped up and fought somebody for a title. Rod in Philly, you're up.
What's going on? Yeah, I just don't see Bob Arum letting Terence Crawford go up to 147 to fight one of these guys. I think he's gonna try to milk him at 140 for as long as he can. As far as the Shawn Porter and Danny Garcia, I think that would be a really good fight. I mean, Shawn Porter comes forward, and Danny's the counter puncher. It'd be an interesting fight. And then you got the two dads, so that would be just as interesting. But I don't think it's gonna happen either. I think Lamont's gonna be in the mix somehow. I just got a feeling Lamont's gonna be in the mix for one of these guys, maybe Danny again, you know, and then they can come around and make a unification with Keith. But yeah, I just don't see any of these scenarios happening because, you know, I just don't see it. But I would still like to see Shawn versus Danny, but I just don't see it happening.
All right, Rod. Thanks for calling in. Marcus in Washington, D.C. Talk to us.
Hey, yo, man, I'm kind of torn on this real quick. I can't believe I'm have to say some of this, but look. When has the WBC ever been good about fucking making their interim champion get a championship fight? Gennady had the interim belt for how fucking long? Then Lucas Matisse had the WBC interim title for how fucking long before he got the fight? My other question is, they said Thurman's going to be out till November. They act like no fighter has held the belt that has not gone on a 365-day hiatus without having a fight. He make it seem like the guy going to be out for 2 years. There's fighters that don't even fight again in the time that he's talking about coming back. So what's the deal for him to have an interim title holder? I don't get that. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. Anybody who gets it doesn't get it. Crawford, I wouldn't make my first foray up there against Shawn Porter because it holds no value. Shawn Porter, again, we talking about giving him another title shot. We got a WBA title mandatory dude over there, Lamont Peterson, and ain't nobody said nothing about him. Shawn Porter don't even have a fight.
Yo, what is funny is that people are like, oh, I don't want to see Porter. I don't want, like, what happened to the best find the best? Isn't it how we mix it up? Like, what? I don't get it. This is mixing it up right here. These guys all getting in with each other is mixing it up. We kind of got that in that light heavyweight division just a little bit.
I like Porter versus Lamont Peterson.
I think
I love that fight.
I would say 68 probably mixed it all up more. You said who? Porter Peterson?
Yeah, I love that fight.
I
both
was
guys coming off wins. Both guys are the mandatories to Keith Thurman, who's the unified champion. So it kind of makes a unified mandatory in a sense.
Yeah, but it's two different sanctioning bodies. I mean, look, I wish in a perfect world it could happen.
At all? I can check that really fast.
In a perfect world, I would like that to happen. But I was giving it thought on the last call, and I don't know how that style matches up.
Those two.
Peterson might get bowled over too because he likes to stand his ground, but remember, he squares up, and that's the wrong thing to do versus Shawn. Sal, young Mike Tyson in these streets. What up?
What's up with you guys? Yo, man, I don't know why people keep on saying that this Shawn Porter is a dangerous fight for Danny Garcia, bro. I mean, the blueprint's out there. The man's been beat. They have a common opponent. I mean, everybody and their mom thought that. Well, not everybody, I should say, but I'm one of the ones that thought that Danny wasn't even a true 147-pounder, and he kind of proved me wrong with the Keith Thurman, and he held his own. And let's not forget that his left hook is probably the best, like one of the best in the game. And Shawn did get dropped by a left hook by Adrian Broner, out of all people. Let's not forget that late in their fight. So imagine if Danny lands his. That's all I got to say.
All right.
And for the record, Shawn Porter is not ranked in the WBA, but Danny Garcia is.
Canadian Jose, you're back. Your boomerang status? No? Busy? Just listening? What? Matt, you falling asleep over there heavy, huh?
What do you mean?
Check the chat.
Thank God that nigga seen another day.
It was good, boys. Been gone for a little bit, but I'm back. But listen, I like this fight. I'm cool with Crawford fighting Porter or Garcia if it happens next, but I prefer him to fight Ndongo. I want to see an undisputed champion. I'm tired of these sanctioning bodies throwing in some shit when we're one step away from an undisputed champion. And that's my call.
All right. My final thoughts, Matt, are simple. In the beginning, I was kind of against the sanctioning bodies and everything, all the drama and confusion that they added. But every now and then, something like this may or may not happen, and this is good if it can. An introduction for Terence Crawford to the welterweight division, which only means great and exciting fights with someone that people are calling the next one for real, or, a matchup between top 5 welterweights in Porter and Danny. Either way, I like it. And at the very least, it gives us something to talk about, right? Because I'm telling you, if this does happen, we would be excited. Like you said, either fight is a big fight. If it's Danny versus Porter, it's on an NBC or a Fox or something big, you know? And if it's Crawford versus Porter, well, that's big in itself, obviously, because of HBO, Max Kellerman being on First Take, and HBO, Lampley doing Fight Game. They would probably have a Road 2.
It would get a ton of airtime on HBO.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, Crawford just did $1 million with Felix Diaz. You know, he's already, quote unquote, according to Bob, garnered enough star potential that the risk versus reward is enough for Pacquiao at this time. And Bob feels that he could offer Pacquiao the right offer to get him in the ring with Crawford sometime in November. So Crawford actually has tons of options, but this is a great secondary option. It really is. I'm your host, Nestor Gibbs. Find me on Instagram and Twitter at NestGTO. If you're watching this now, later, if you're in Australia, right? Is it Australia? I don't know. What country would it be to be in the future right now?
Be Australia.
Okay, Australia. Then, you know, hit the thumbs up. We need those thumbs up to help with the visibility of the show. And remember to drop a 5-star review on iTunes and have it read here live on air over the show. Hipster, let them know what they need to know.
Final thoughts. I love both these fights. I just do not think they happen next. Not saying they don't happen this year, but they do not happen next. Crawford's not fighting a Porter next, or Manny Pacquiao next, in my opinion. Those fights just are not happening next. Ndongo is probably likely, barring the IBF sanctioning Ndongo to fight Sergey Lipinets. But welterweight is going to be such a good division when you get Crawford, Lamont Peterson, Amir Khan, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Earl Spence, Kell Brook, Manny Pacquiao, Tim Bradley. When all these guys really start facing each other, that division becomes something special. It really does. That's a very deep division in the top 10 with all star potential or some sort of star power relative to boxing. But yeah, those are my final thoughts. You can catch me at Mixed Combat News on Twitter, Matt Hunter, TBV on Instagram. My Mixed Combat Radio is my MMA podcast. You can catch it on Patreon, SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, etc. Peace.
Hey, remember to head on over to Patreon for more exclusive content. I'm going to be putting out a video today discussing my sparring with the big 6'5", 240 Big Bill out of the Glen Tapia gym. I've been training for my Border Wars fight with the losing Canadian team out of Glen Tapia's gym. You know, Monty Barrett, Kendall Holt. Who else was there? Glenn Tapia was there today, and even Jerson Ravello. I didn't think that guy was still boxing. Even he was there today. So you already know. That's right, Hands of Stone. Ness Young Ali in these streets. And I'm talking Young Ali. Know what I'm saying? Hitting with the jab. Yo, first day sparring ever, guys. I mean, outside of me putting hands on Shawn Porter. Remember when I did that? You know what I'm saying? I did at least put a right hand on him, man. Stop making faces. I did land the right. You know what I'm saying? That's what caused him to hit me with the body shot. But it's all different now. You know, I'm doing my thing. But anyway, yeah, head on over to Patreon / ThaBoxingVoice. Goodbye.